From scoring 32 on Michael Jordan himself to beating the Bulls team 72-10 in 1996, Muhammad Abdul-Rauf was a force to be reckoned with back in his day.
The type of impact that you have on the game, better yet, the impact that you have on people, and as well, the impact that those same people will have on you. And never could I have written this story for myself.
So, let's talk about how he managed to dominate the GOAT, MJ. I mean, it wouldn't be wrong to say that he was the best shooter around. You see, this guy is probably one of the few guys in history who can say it proudly that they showed up Michael Jordan and the Bulls in the 90s. Of course, the other guy on this list is Allen Iverson.
And he just grabbed me. There's a photo out there with him having me like in a headlock. And he was just like, you know, what's up, you little but no.
Allen is the man who dared cross Jordan over and tell the world of his arrival on the biggest stage. And then you've got Rauf. In fact, Rauf also managed to dominate MJ in his absolute prime days. Seriously, this guy is one of the biggest what-ifs of the NBA. The 6'1" point guard got to play in the league for just 8 good years. In fact, he ended up getting blackballed for his stance on the national anthem. Yeah, that was unfortunate. That said, he still likes to reminisce on his past and talk about it these days, which of course is great news for all of us. After all, some of his performances on the grandest stage of them all are in a league of their own, like his 30-ball game against MJ and the Bulls. So back in 1995-96, Chicago Bulls held this NBA record. Yup, they had the most wins until Stephen Curry and co. managed to break it in 2015-16. So what I'm trying to say is, the 72-10 team is pretty much the greatest NBA team of all time. Oh, and I stand by this. So when Abdul-Rauf and his 35-47 Denver Nuggets managed to inflict the greatest NBA team ever with such a big loss, well, it was a pretty big deal. You see, Muhammad's 32 points on his opposite number were good enough to cancel out the 6'6" guard's 39, who was actually playing point guard in this game. Can you believe it? And this was MJ's prime too. So Rauf's been recently talking about this. On All the Smoke podcast, he brought the game up with Matt Barnes and Stephen Jackson, and even though Rauf was pretty happy with what he scored, he still has one regret. Now, the Bulls had put Michael Jordan at point guard, and Muhammad was the thief visit guarding MJ. Apparently, Rauf was trying to kill him and get him off immediately, and this strategy worked. At the time though, it felt pretty nice for the point guard to score 32 and beat them, but I would flip it round and have the championship, he did admit. I mean, that makes sense, I guess. What would you rather have? Scoring 32 against one of the best basketball players of all time, or just win the championship instead? Rauf's opinion makes even more sense when you think about it. After all, this ended up being his last meaningful season. I mean, don't get me wrong, this guy definitely made sure that NBA fans remember him for days to come. It was clear that he was going to be out of the NBA in just a couple of years to come, but he still managed to steal away that one victory from MJ. I think it would have still kept them at 73-9 as the most successful team in a regular NBA season, tied with the 2015-16 Golden State Warriors. Anyway, Rauf managed this feat when the Bulls were on a 10-game win streak and a 41-03 in the season. I think that just makes his achievement all the more special, doesn't it? But then things turned sour. You see, he got a ban shortly after this great individual season, which skyrocketed him to fame. Things changed drastically after this. I mean, as soon as this career-high season wrapped up for him, Rauf started getting treated differently for having this opinion, something that he stood for and believed in, you know. And I think his beliefs about the national anthem would actually be greatly appreciated in today's world. He was just in the wrong time period. It was quite tragic that things had to end this way, truly. A player of his potential, I mean, he would have been an all-time great.
It just didn't make sense to me that what the flag is supposed to represent is not representing that. And I couldn't see myself standing up for that symbol. I felt it was diametrically opposed to what I believed in.
That being said, even though MJ lost this game to Muhammad Abdul-Rauf, he never actually lost an NBA Final Series in his career. I mean, he is the best for a reason, right? He spearheaded the Bulls to 2 three-peats. I guess that's why he's been named the greatest athlete of all time by Morning Consult. Yup, MJ topped the list with the most votes. In fact, this former Bulls legend is also considered by many as the GOAT in the world of basketball. I mean, he got 19% of the total votes, and after him, You had Tom Brady at 12% of the total votes. The only other NBA players who made the list were Kobe Bryant and LeBron James. Yup, they came in 5th and 6th place respectively. Okay, but let's talk more about Muhammad's untimely ending of his basketball career, because I still maintain that he was ahead of his time, both on and off the court. On the court, if anyone is an answer to the question, how would Steph Curry do in the 90s, it would be Mohamed Abdul-Rauf. Seriously, just think about it for a sec. In the only year that Raif was allowed to play more than 5 threes a game, well, he managed to shoot a 39.2% from deep. So I definitely think that he was one of the best shooters in NBA history. After all, he's a career 90% shooter from the free throw line, but that's not all. One other way in which he was ahead of his time is precisely the reason why he got blackballed from the NBA. You see, this was years before Colin Kaepernick.
I mean, ultimately, it's to bring awareness and make people, realize what's really going on in this country. There are a lot of things that are going on that are unjust, people aren't being held accountable for, and that's something that needs to change.
Because Abdul-Rauf stopped standing up for the national anthem. In fact, it was an act of protest. Raif argued that the US flag was a symbol of oppression. I mean, these days, this opinion isn't so controversial. Back then, you'd get thrown out of any team in the blink of an eye. This is why on March 12, 1996, his career met a depressing end. Basically, the NBA suspended the point guard for his refusal to stand. This also ended up costing Muhammad around $31,707 per game. Yeah, insane stuff. That said, he did manage to reach a compromise as he agreed with the league that he would stand for the national anthem. But Raif would only do this if he was allowed to keep his eyes closed. He also bowed his head and often prayed. His teammate, Bryant Stith, actually spoke out about the atmosphere in the locker room during that time. And according to him,
of an idea that somebody would stand up against the American flag. I think it forced people to take a stand, and a lot of people were very uncomfortable.
the team was super comfortable about discussing his ideas as a devout Muslim. You see, Muhammad really practiced his faith. He walked his faith. He lived it, and he even spoke it. According to Stith, this is exactly what made the team very comfortable with his perspective and even his ideas. They all talked about it very often. Apparently, Abdul-Rauf had been protesting the entirety of the season, but then someone made it a thing on some radio talk show. Before that, it really wasn't such a big deal. And just like that, it became a topic of national discussion, and everyone had an opinion on it. Soon, the consequences for it followed. I guess that's the point of protesting. You want to draw attention and have people talk about it, but the consequences in this case were definitely severe. Anyway, this was all about Mohamed Abdul-Rauf, the player who dominated MJ in 1996.